Shalom, Kol Halo, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Bakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. 144,000 and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that look like those heathens. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson of truth. And this is a book that the beloved brother, the elder brother, the head of the Hawaii camp, Gabar Yahweh, the brother gave me a call last week and read me something out of this book. I haven't even gotten to that part yet. I think I'm on page 8 right now, and there's just so much meat in here. And although this history that's in this book matches up with other books and other references, and there's even references to where some of the information of this came from, but you don't know who the author is. All right, but nevertheless, the information lines up with history, and the references are accurate. You can look up the references that it mentions, and find that these people actually said and did these things. So this book is intense. I mean, it really, really is intense. And so I'm going to do some reading from it. But first, let me grab a scripture. This is Luke 8. Well, I was going to go to 12, but I got to 8 first. And 17, and it reads, "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad." And these are the words of Yahushai. You know, it was Yahushai who said this. All right. In fact, I think I have a precept for that. Let me see. Yeah, this is Isaiah 3, and I'm going to read through verse 11 through 13. And it reads, "Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given to him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. The Lord standeth up and pleadeth and standeth to judge the people." So, you know, the Lord is going to judge these people for the wickedness they have done. And all all the history they tried to bury and hide, well, it's all finding its way to the surface. It's all coming out. But I'm gonna start on page 4 here, and I'm going to quote other books and information that I've read that all this stuff lines up with. All right, because I have a book about what I'm about to read. I just have yet been able to find which one. I've got so many books, I don't remember where I read the passage about Christopher Columbus, whose real name is Cristobal Colon, and about his son Diego, his son Diego Colon's lawsuit against the crown for monies that he felt was owed to his father that he didn't get paid. All right, but here we go, page 4. Who brought the slaves to America? The story of the slaves in America begins with Christopher Columbus. See, so that completely kills the false doctrine of the 1619. Yeah, people try to debate with us on that. All right, slavery started for the Israelites almost 100 years before that. All right. But it says the story of the slaves in America began with Christopher Columbus. His voyage to America was not financed by Queen Isabella, but by Luis de Santangelo, who advanced a sum of 17,000 ducats and about 5,000 pounds today, equal to the 50,000 pounds to finance the voyage, which began August 3rd, 1492. And what had happened in August? Spain and Portugal fell. The Moors, all right? The Moors who were Muslim, and the Morenos who were Jews, the real ones. But you also had Jewish people too. So you have to be able to decipher between the two, all right? And, you know, and the definition for Moreno, you know, if you can look it up on the online dictionary, etymology, online etymology dictionary, and it's going to tell you a Moreno was a Moor, all right, or a Jew or a Christian, all right, in Spain in the 1400s, all right. So a Moreno, you know, and Hispanics still refer to dark-fleshed Hispanics and dark-fleshed Hispanic women as Morenos and Morenas, all right? And Morenas are very, very popular, too, all right? So it's literally talking about their skin color. All right, but see, the Columbus was accompanied by 5 Morenos. How many times have we told you that? Those Morenos were Israelites because they also spoke Hebrew. It says Columbus was accompanied by 5 Morenos, Jews who had forsworn their religion and supposedly became Catholics. Luis de Torres, interpreter, Marco the surgeon, Bernal the physician, Alonso de la Cal, and Gabriel Sanchez. All right, the International Jew by Henry Ford. That's the reference. So this information can be found in Henry Ford's book. That is giving you the reference, page 4, The International Jew by Henry Ford. Okay? Now remember, you had Judeans and then you had Jewish converts. So they kind of mixed the two together when, you know, so you got to be able to decipher who's who. They don't give you that much, but it says, and remember, I told you about Columbus's son, Diego Colon. So here's the next paragraph. Gabriel Sanchez, abetted by the other 4 Jews, sold Columbus on the idea of capturing 5,000 Indians. So these turncoats, these Jews, and we always tell you, man, that the Moors were the big time race traders, man. And though most of them are your boulets today, they were also the Huguenots that helped build America. When they went into Europe and they came to America, those were your Huguenots that actually helped set up the 13 colonies. That's why they were able to set up the colonies and mix and mingle with the natives so easily, because some of them still spoke Hebrew, and the natives in America were speaking broken Hebrew. There's lots of evidences for that, and that's why they brought these interpreters. Okay, and because they don't call them interpreters here, well, they call Luis de Torres an interpreter. But in Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in the Spanish discoveries by Mayor K. Serling on page 95, it refers to him as an interpreter. All right. Also, I believe on page there's another page in here where it refers to him as Luis de Torres as an interpreter. But here's the book. I'll just bring it from the camera. Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. All right. This book was college reading. They removed it from all the colleges because it just gives up way too much information. And it also proves, because you got in this book from page 95 to all the way to page 10. So you got 5 pages that refers to the Indians as the Native Americans as Israelites, and there's plenty of evidences. All right, there's so many writers and different from the 15, 16, 17, and 1800s, even early 1900s, was saying that there are even American-made movies in early Hollywood that speak about the natives being the lost tribes of Israel. Right, but they were never lost. They've always known that they were here. That's why Christopher Columbus came with these 5 Morenos who all spoke Hebrew. They weren't looking for India, with Hebrew speaking interpreters and doctors. you know. But it says, let me go back to this one. It says, Gabriel Sanchez, abetted by the other 4 Jews, sold Columbus on the idea of capturing 500 Indians and selling them as slaves in Seville, Spain, which was done. All right. Well, there's another book by Lorenz Katz, The Black Indian. With that account is also in that book. So that's another reference. All right. But it says suffering injustice. Wait a minute. Columbus did not receive any of the money from the sale of the slaves, but he became a victim of a conspiracy fostered by Bernal, the ship's doctor, one of those, Morenos that spoke Hebrew, because he was a Hebrew. All right, he wasn't one of the converts when he wasn't Jewish. Okay, but he said because that's what Jewish means, it's a convert. Betrayed by the 5 Moreno Jews, should say Judeans, all right, or Judites, whom he had trusted and helped. This ironically was the beginning of slavery in the Americas. The Adventures of African Slavery by Malcolm Cowley, 1928, page 2. I'm going to try to go to this old spot and see if I can find that. All right. Adventures of an African Slaver by Malcolm Cowley. I'm going to put that on the screen. All right. Let's see if we can get it to focus. Right there. Come on now. There it is. The Adventures of an African Slaver by Malcolm Cowley. All right. So they're giving you the resources of where this information is coming from. All right. So, and like I said, I have a book that has letters that are written back and forth between Diego Colon, the son of Cristobal Colon, aka Christopher Columbus, who was trying to sue to get monies because his family was broke and he felt like they made untold millions. Unto this day, hundreds and hundreds of trillions of dollars have been made from the transaction of this slave trade. All right, the whole Western society and the Western, not only here in America but the West, everyone is a part of the Western philosophy, has benefited from this when this thing took place. All right. Next paragraph. The Jews were expelled from Spain on August 2nd, 1492, and from Portugal in 1497. Many of these Jews immigrated to Holland, which they set up the Dutch West India Company to exploit the New World. All right. Now remember, you had Jews. You also had the Huguenots. The Huguenots played a big role in this, and the Huguenots were actual Israelites. All right, the Judeans, that also helped sell their own people into slavery. When you watch the movie 12 Years a Slave, the Huguenots were the well-to-do Negroes who weren't slaves that were living in the colonies, while they were bringing the rest of their brothers from the west coast of Africa. Now remember, they love to label these people Africans, but the people who got sold into slavery out of the west coast of Africa were not Africans at all. They were Hebrew Israelites who had migrated there, fleeing Roman persecution at the fall of Jerusalem, when the Romans, when Titus and Vespasian, what was it, the triumvirate? When you read in the Apocrypha, those Roman emperors, all right, when they came in and sacked Jerusalem, and many of the Israelites that didn't die were actually captured and sold into slavery. And that the account of that is also in the book From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. All right, it tells you that the slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Well, they weren't Jewish; they were Israelites. All right, they love to play with that word Jewish. You can't call the 12 tribes of Israel Jewish; they were Israelites. And Judah refers only to the one tribe of Judah. All right, point blank. Period. You can't call someone from Manasseh Jewish. You can't call an Ephraimite Jewish. You can't call a Benjamite Jewish. All right. The only people who were Jewish were the Edomite converts, so-called white people, all right, who were kind of like Jews but weren't. That's what the suffix ish means. You know, if something's green-ish or it's blue-ish, well, they were Jew-ish. Why? Because John Hyrcanus had forced them, when he conquered them, to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. So that's how you had a portion of Amalek, of the Amalekites, who, you know, that's what the family of Herod, the Herodians, came out of. The Herodians were some of these very people that I'm speaking of. All right. And then, since they were Edomites, just like the Romans put the Herodians over the Israelites. This is why they were constantly scoffing them, because they knew that they weren't the people of the Lord. All right. But let's get an account of the slavery in Deuteronomy. And this is more for the new people. Because you people that have been around, been watching, you know this at this point. There's always someone new. All right, and there's always a denier of prophecy. Normally, people who deny prophecy are Christians. All right, Edomite Christians especially. But this is Deuteronomy 28:68, and it reads, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, Yahweh," all right, because that's all capitals, "and Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships." And you've heard people foolishly try to argue the point that this is physical Egypt. No, that's why you have to look up what the word means. The word Egypt means house of bondage. That's literally what it means. All right. And when the Edomites took it over, and Egypt became, you know, so-called white, you know, when after Alexander set up Ptolemy, one of his 4 generals, and they took it over, all right, because they love to show history from the time of the Ptolemies, and the Ptolemies became pharaohs and royals, all right, and so they love to show the images of the Ptolemies, you know, and the Cleopatra, you know, who were daughters of the Ptolemies, that bloodline, when the Edomites took over, and not, you know, all the Hamitic sons of Mizraim, who were the actual Egyptians during the time of the Israelites and the dark flesh people who actually were there ruling during the time that the pyramids were built and before that. All right. But let's start this again. Deuteronomy 28:68. "And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way thereof I spake, thou shalt see it no more again." The it was Israel. They would never see it again. "And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you, no man shall redeem you." You're going to be sold. There's a bondman, a slave man, and then and a bondwoman, and there's nothing, and no one is going to save you from this fate. All right, let's get Hosea 8:13, quick precept. Then we'll go back to the book. So I'm going to try to go into this book periodically. I mean, I got so many books that I'm reading. And, you know, so it's kind of hard to just focus on one. It's, you know, so I just kind of pick it up and just try to read a couple pages and put it down and go to another one. But this is Hosea 8:13. And it reads, "They sacrifice flesh for the sacrifices of mine offerings and eat it, but Yahweh accepted them not, nor will he remember their iniquity and visit their sins. They shall return to Egypt." Not physically return to Egypt. They shall return to bondage. We went off, and so the Lord ignored our sacrifices and turned his back on us, and we went into Egypt, captivity, the house of bondage again. All right, for that idiot, that Edomite, Kerrigan S. Kelly. All right. So now the next paragraph. It says, in 1654, the first Jew, Jacob Barasum, immigrated from Holland to the New Amsterdam, New York, and in the next decade, more followed him, settling along the East Coast, principally in New Amsterdam and New York, Newport, Rhode Island. They were prevented by ordinances issued by the government, Peter Stuyvesant, from engaging in domestic economy, so they quickly discovered that the territory inhabited by the Indians would be fertile field. There were no laws preventing the Jews from trading with the Indians, right? And so once again, this was Huguenots and Edomite converts that were doing this, because remember, the Indians were also Hebrew, and so these Negro Israelites that were doing business with these Jewish people were able to helped set up shop here in America. All right. But it says the first Jew began trading with the Indians was Haman Levy, who imported cheap glass beads, textiles, earrings, armbands, and cheap adornments from Holland, which were traded for valuable fur pelts. All right. Haman Levy was soon joined by Jews Nicholas Lowe and Joseph Simon. Lowe conceived the idea of trading rum, whiskey to the Indians and set up a distillery in Newport. He also set up the Newport cigarettes, which is still killing Jake to this day. Remember, tobacco trade was the first trade, and that was a lot of these natives, a lot of these so-called natives, these Gadites were being used as slave labor for tobacco, right along with the so-called Negro. All right. Where these two liquors were produced, within a short time, there were 22 distilleries in Newport. Damn. All of them owned by Jews, manufacturing, distributing firewater. All right. The story of the debauching of the Indians, all right, which is resultant massacre and early settlers, is a dramatic story in itself. So that's why so many Gadites are alcoholics to this day. All right, because Esau gave them this firewater, this alcohol, which they couldn't tolerate, and they would get drunk, and then they got hooked on it, and they would just, and then also when they were in a drunken state, Esau would attack them. He would give them lots of rum, and they drink it, and then when they were passed out and unable to defend themselves, Esau would attack. Okay, and a lot of them ended up on the ships being sold into slavery too. Right, because because I'm gonna read this next. Let me put a mark here so I can start here. So I can stop here and know where to start at. All right, but it says it is essential to comprehend the seaport of Newport. It is important in order to recognize the Jewish share of the slave commerce. All right, so the Jewish people were heavy into the slave trade. That's what all this led up to. All this the fur pelts and all this other, it led up to this. All right. And it says, there was a period when it was commonly referred to as the Jewish Newport. Wow, never knew that. World Center of Slave Commerce. Wow, let me read that again. The Jewish Newport, World Center of Slave Commerce. Altogether at this time, there were in North America 6 Jewish communities: Newport, Charleston, New York, Philadelphia, Richmond, and Savannah. There also were many other Jews scattered over the entire of the East Coast, although New York held first place in settlers of Jews in North America. Newport held the second place. New York was also the main source of kosher meat, supplying the Northern American settlements, the West Indies Islands, and all of South America. Now Newport took over. All right. And remember, and then that's also where the Newport cigarettes come from. All right. And when this happened, when all this stuff happened, there's no mention of the Monanos, and this was all Edomite converts. So this is what I was talking about when I say you have to decipher between the Huguenots, who were also Israelites, and then the Jewish converts, which they just frankly and plainly call Jews. All right, they don't break it down anymore, because when these businesses were set up, even though the Huguenots helped them set it up, they weren't getting the residuals from this. All right. So let me grab one more scripture and we'll close it out and pick this up in the next lesson. This book is getting really interesting, so I think I'm gonna stick with this one for a while. But I read Luke 8 and 17. I'm gonna read 8 the roll. I'm gonna read Luke 12 and 2, and it reads, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known." So all this, before the judgment comes, which in the judgment is well on its way, and this could very well be the year that it all comes tumbling down. All right, all this is going to be known about who's who, and punishments are going to be given out horrendously. So with that, I'm going to say Shalom, Kwam Yasharala.